Hi everyone and welcome back to Galaxy Art Media. I'm here with a special guest, Graham from Amber Sky Media, and we will talk together about the Dwarf II Smart Telescope and the Seestar 50, about cons and pros, and we'll compare these two smart telescopes together so you'll be able to decide which one is the best for you. Now, let's salute Graham and begin the video. Hi Graham.
Hi, Jan and everybody. I'm Graham from Canada. As you can see here behind me, I have the Dwarf II and the Seestar, and I've been using both for about a month now. The Dwarf II a little bit longer than that, and I'm ready and prepared to talk about the pluses and minuses, differences, and everything else you could possibly think of with these two telescopes.
I do want to start by showing how fast it is to start imaging with these two telescopes. So with the Dwarf II, it's very easy. It takes you a couple of seconds to place the tripod. We have also a very nice travel bag here. That it will fit also accessories like filters, adapters, and battery or other stuff that you need. And if you need to go travel somewhere, go farther away from the car, let's say hiking or go on difficult terrain, you can easily go with the Dwarf II. However, with the Seestar S50 being twice as heavy, about 2.5 kilograms, will be harder to take the case and hike with it or go, let's say, on a waterfall where the terrain is difficult is very difficult and you might risk falling down. So in these situations, I think Dwarf 2 will be your best choice.
All right, so here I have the Seestar box, and as you can see, it's significantly bigger than the little case that Jan showed you. When we come to the Seestar itself is this box on the top, and it's also this uh, telescope tripod that they provide. Now, I'm going to unscrew it here so you can see it. This comes with the Seestar S50. This is the scope. Obviously, it's turned on and rotating here. So this is the optical part. It's quite easy to actually attach at the bottom, like so, as we do it like this. And then you can use the tripod to balance the Seestar on uneven surfaces. Although I will say that the best solution is actually to use it in its smallest form like this and have it on a flat surface. I have it on flat patio stones because it does need to sort of level itself to work. And I find that trying to use this to sort of adjust for that level can make this a little top heavy. And I do worry a little bit about it, falling over stuff. So if you do want to make a small improvement on this, I would suggest perhaps another small tripod that has a wider footing. But that's me. All right, back to Jan.
Okay, I agree with you, Graham. I will make a future video about what will be the best tripod for the Seestar 50. Now let's talk about the Deep Sky performance on both telescopes. We'll start with the Seestar 50, then we'll move to the Dwarf 2. I can say that I was really impressed with the quality of the Seestar 50 for Deep Sky imaging. First, the software, the app worked very good. It was very easy to use and calibration was fast. The sky map also was very easy to use and the go-to place solving worked flawless. So regarding the software, the ease of use, I have to give a 10 for the Seestar 50. And regarding Deep Sky imaging, when I first started using the Seestar, they didn't have the option to record individual files. However, on the next update, we had that option also, and we could stack the images in different software. Now let's move to the live stack itself. There, the quality for the Deep Sky imaging was also very good. And comparing here with the Dwarf II, I have to say the quality of the images from the Seestar telescope was better. And this is because the Seestar has a 250 millimeters lens compared with 100 millimeters, also a better sensor with larger pixels. This helped the Seestar get more light. Because of these features, it will be able to get better quality for deep sky astrophotography compared with the Dwarf II Smart Telescope. Now let's talk a little bit also about field rotation. The Dwarf II Smart Telescope and the Seestar S50 are alt-azimuth telescopes, not equatorial. So they will have some field rotation when tracking the stars. This means if you will go long exposure plans, you'll have this field rotation more visible. However, the Dwarf II Smart Telescope has a little advantage because it can be used also in equatorial mode as an equatorial mount. And if you manage to align it well to Polaris, it will minimize this field rotation that we can see in these captures.
So hey everybody, so this is the Seestar S50. Yeah, no, I got it wrong now. This is the Dwarf 2. Oh my god. All right, there are some big advantages to the Dwarf 2 over the S50 when it comes to deep space objects, and that is that the Dwarf 2 actually has a wider lens. And I know that might sound different than what we want to do, but the Seestar S50 actually is a bit tight for a lot of beginner targets. Andromeda, the Great Orion Nebula, the Dark Horse Nebula, and things like Pleiades are actually just a little too big for the Seestar S50 to get in one shot. I'm going to be doing a video about how to mosaic this stuff together, but with the Dwarf 2, I can actually do that all in one image or maybe just two images for some of those larger targets like the California Nebula. So that's an interesting one. The other thing to consider too is that the Dwarf 2 shoots in landscape mode, whereas the Seestar S50's camera is actually in portrait mode. It's set up like this. So depending on what images you want to take and what you're going to get, you kind of get that interesting. Do you want landscape or do you want portrait? Because neither of these cameras can rotate their optical elements. The last thing I want to say about the Dwarf 2 is that it actually has two cameras, a wide camera. I'm pointing at the wide camera. No, a wide camera and a telephoto camera. Now, currently for astrophotography, you can only use the telephoto camera, but they are talking about in the future of also having it where you can use the wide camera, which might allow you to do some stuff when we have meteor showers and stuff like that to get like that whole night view. So that's the thing. So anyway, so yeah, so that's what it is for DSO. Like now, in terms of solar and lunar, this gets a little bit more interesting. What are your thoughts, Jan?
Yeah, that's a difficult question because we do have some new updates, new features with the Dwarf 2. Now Dwarf 2 stepped up and it offers also a sky catalog with more deep sky objects. So from now on, also the Dwarf 2 will be easier to use for deep sky. And they are
Yeah.
working on the Sky Atlas map, but it's not ready yet. So for the moment, the Seestar 50 is easier to use to find more deep sky objects. Okay, so what's your opinion, Graham?
So here's the thing. I'm on iOS. You're on Android. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff that the Android users can use in the Dwarf 2 that doesn't exist for the iOS people. I know they're putting updates up, and there's going to be definitely newer updates, etc. But like right now, the Seestar S50, they are, as far as I know, comparable. If you're using an Android or you're using an iOS device, they have the same sort of smart app on their phone, and it seems to be pretty full featured. The big thing I don't like about the app is that there's a lot of automated stuff. So while the Dwarf 2 has it where they're having to roll out a lot of the automated features, you can manually control the telescope. Whereas with this guy, it has the automated features in there, but now they're having to go the other direction and give us more manual controls.
Yeah, yeah. I was
Yeah,
thinking the same. It felt a little bit too simple, not
yeah,
enough advanced controls, and that can be a problem in some areas. Like if you want to see a planet even small like Jupiter,
yeah.
the auto exposure on my test didn't work so well.
I did the same thing. I turned the auto exposure all the way down on the Sea Star to try to take a picture of Jupiter, and it was still overexposed.
Yeah, was
But
overexposed, and I didn't like that. So with the Dwarf 2, even if it has a smaller focal length and doesn't have the same resolution as the Seastar, I was able to lower the exposure and see some details on the band. So were visible, not in great detail, but visible a little
yeah,
bit.
enough that somebody can say that they saw Jupiter or they've seen Saturn because it's also a valid target. Whereas for planetary, I think the Dwarf 2 is probably going to be the pick for sure.
Yeah, well, For
for now, at
planetary,
least.
I won't expect for great results.
Yeah,
However, if let's say you want to make a lunar time lapse, I think this will
yeah.
be better. It can be improved with software updates also for the Seestar. But
Mhm.
currently, I couldn't make a lunar time lapse with the Seestar with the correct exposure, so I had to use the solar tracking for that.
Yeah, yeah, you have to use solar tracking. So for me, I found that doing Lunar, um, with them, they both do photos, like single photos, and they both do video. The Dwarf II does have that new stacking features. I've been able to do it for solar, but I've so far had clouds for the lunar stuff. So I'm hoping to get lunar very soon so I can try it out. But I've seen some of your lunar photos, Jan,
Yeah,
and
we'll
they
share.
are
Yeah,
really nice with the stacking, like with the Dwarf II stacking. Although the Sea Star does have that higher resolution. So
we'll share my results here on lunar and solar. The new feature from the update 1.8 at Dwarf II will
mhm.
bring also lunar solar live staking in 4K, but also deep sky astrophotography that will make also live staking better for deep sky. So I've tested it and I managed to get some great results on Orion Nebula and also Andromeda Galaxy, and we can compare this with the Seestar 50. We'll show the images here while we're talking, so you'll be
Yep.
able to see the difference. I just want to say that the Seestar is still better on deep sky imaging on quality. However, you can also recover with the Dwarf 2 by imaging more. So there are pros and cons. I think the Seestar 50 wins this round on deep sky astrophotography. What do you think, Graham?
I think that for most people, if they're just starting out, I think both telescopes are going to work out quite well. But I think that you very quickly want to move to this guy here because it can image the smaller objects in the sky a lot better. And I think that's going to be the big win for this guy is that 250 millimeter versus 100 means that there's a lot more small objects in the sky that this will see that end up being sort of you can see them in the Dwarf 2, but they're kind of small and the resolution's a bit lower.
Yeah, but let's not forget what you said before that Dwarf is the landscape orientation,
Yep.
right? And
Yeah.
larger field of view that you can crop
Yeah.
and you can get
Yeah.
like Andromeda Galaxy, but with the Seestar, you cannot get it only a part and you need to make a mosaic, right?
Yeah, and that's what I've been doing right now is I've been mosaicing larger targets. I actually have mosaicked the California Nebula.
Yeah, yeah. To complete what Graham said about the resolution, having this new feature with the dwarf by imaging with binning one by one in 4K for deep sky, we are actually close with the Seestar in resolution, in image resolution, like arc second per pixel. I believe the Seestar is around 2.37 arc second per pixel, and the Dwarf 2 is around 2.99. You can research more about this. However, it's about 20% difference in image resolution. If you crop, the Dwarf 2 will be like using a 200 millimeters lens with the same sensor, and the Seestar 50 like 250.
I did have a chance to do this with solar on probably the worst day for solar because there was only one sunspot. I found it quite nice to use with solar astrophotography. There is a solar field somewhere, which I'm sure I've misplaced or lost. Oh no, I got it. It's over here that you can put in. And it's gonna put in, and there we go. And you can plug this in to use it for solar, which I can do here. Uh, I honestly do not like this because this here fits in here and you can just go in here and it's not hard to do per se, but once you get it in it's kind of in tight, which is good, but then when you're trying to get it out it's very hard to pull out. And the other thing too is that this is not a standard 2-inch filter holder. This is like custom for this. So there's other filters I have that I would like to use in addition to or in conjunction with the solar filter. I can't use yet. I have to figure out how to do that.
I had a similar experience with the solar filter. Just a second to put the dwarfs.
Yep,
Okay.
yep, no worries.
So I had a similar experience. Was harder to pull out. And I noticed, yeah, you need to really to be careful how much you pull it in, not to have problems. This was one reason that I lost a solar transit. See, I had some crowds I had to move, and I had like 7 minutes maximum to find the sound and start recording the transit. And I was ready. I had still like 3 or 4 minutes left, something like that, when I put it the filter on, I had to push more to get it right. And I don't know, it shaked a little bit and I lost connection. For some
Yeah.
reason, I lost connection with the Seestar 50 and I had to close the app, close the Seestar 50, restart it. And I was late with 1 minute and I lost the transit, the solar transit, unfortunately. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like a bit of a broken record, and I really wish ZWO would do something here. But either A, give us an adapter to 2 inch, or have it where future C stars actually have a 2 inch adapter. Now, this is something similar to the William Optics Red Cat 51. When it originally came out, it didn't have a filter on the front here. And I had to actually ask them to go and put a filter in here, and they actually put a 55 millimeter filter on here so that like on the front of the scope. Oh, I have it somewhere, don't I? No, I don't have it. Do I have it? I should have it. When I had my Red Cat, I'll put a picture of it here. I had the Red Cat 51 millimeter. I actually asked them to put a filter thread on the front because, like the Seestar S50, it doesn't have one originally. And that's something I would like to see, or an adapter so that we can actually add 2 inch filters on the front here, including like a solar 2 inch, proper solar 2 inch solar filter.
Yeah, there are some custom options there, like to uh, make a custom filter 3D printed or buy one.
Mhm.
But I do believe ZWO should provide also with a filter thread or some better solution, not to get complicated with buying from somewhere else. Might work good, might have some other problems, but a standard 2 inch thread, I think, is the best way to go.
One last thing I want to say about filters is that there is a actual internal filter you could turn on and off. That is a light pollution filter. I don't know anything about it, but I live in dark enough skies. I leave it off.
Yeah, about the filter, is good that you mentioned. He almost forgot to mention the filters for Deep Sky. So I've tested the filter here in Bottle 4 Sky. Graham has an even darker sky, Bottle 2, I believe, right?
Yeah, two, 2.5, depending on how much snow there is on the ground.
What I do like about that internal filter is a dual band filter. I think it's narrow band, that one. And it's on default. If you switch on an emission nebula, it will turn it on by default. So if you don't want it, you need to turn it off. But I think it's a
Off.
good
Yeah,
option because it will give
I
us
just turn
better
it
sky
off.
contrast. Better sky contrast. Well, I think
Yeah,
you should leave it on for emission nebulas because it will give you better contrast on the H alpha.
yeah, I keep it off. I'm in dark enough skies.
Maybe we should cut that.
That's
Okay,
my take, and I'm
interesting.
leaving it to it. Like I have a whole box of filters that I want to test, and do a whole comparison with. But I need them to be 2 inch, and this is not 2 inch. But
I'm agreeing with you. However,
yeah.
the internal filter, I think, is a nice addition because
Oh yeah, if you live in a city, 100%. But I live in the middle of nowhere.
automatically, if you image a star cluster or galaxy, will go off. You know,
Yeah.
so it helps people when just starting to know if they should use the filter or not.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Now the setup though is a little different on the Dwarf II, which Jan is
Yeah.
now going to.
Now with the Dwarf 2, we have here a filter adapter that is optional, so you can just buy the standard edition without the filter adapter or filters, or just go with the deluxe one that will give you also will give you the Deep Sky filter, the UHC, and two solar filters that you'll be able to see here. I recommend the deluxe version because it will give you also the solar filters to be able to capture the sun, and you'll have also light pollution filter, and this will help you if you live in a city where you have light pollution. So how easy is to use? You just screw the filters here. Yeah, you screw them. It takes a few seconds, maybe 1 minute maximum, and then you'll be able just to place here the filter holder is magnetic. So it has also anti-dew lines, so it will not get dew on the filters. So this is very nice, and we have the 1/4 inch filters that are much cheaper than the 2 inch. And if you really want to use a 2 inch filter, we can buy a cheap adapter and use a 2 inch filter on top. So regarding here filter threads, I think Dwarf 2 has an advantage on accessibility. Like we can use filters much easier than the Seestar 50. Regarding the quality of the Deep Sky filter on the Dwarf, I believe the Seestar internal filter is actually better.
Okay, so I want to talk about this just so people understand. So this I'm holding in one hand is a 2 inch filter, and this in this little box here is a 1.25 inch. And generally, when we're talking about cost, the 2-inch filter can easily be 2 to 2.5 times more expensive. Again, depending which filter you're buying. So I think you'll agree with me, Jan, that
Yes, yes,
buying a 2-inch
yeah,
filter is probably $200-300
yes,
for somebody who wants to buy it, and the equivalent 1.25 is about say
true,
under $100 in a lot of cases, or
true,
just about
true. So
$100.
it's you get much cheaper using here the Dwarf II adapter and buy 1/4 of an inch filters than if you want to upgrade with a 2-inch filter. So let's say if you want to image with an expensive 2-inch filter can cost you 400 euros, right?
And
Instead
yeah,
of 250.
and and I should just say this because I did do this, and since I did this, I'm giving everyone, do not take a 2-inch filter and put it in here. It will fit. It will fit because it's a 48 millimeter filter in a 50 millimeter hole, but it will fall down the hole, and then you will spend half an hour trying to get it out. Don't do that. And
How
yeah,
did you manage to get it out without scratching the filter, by the way?
I own a lot of 2-inch filters, so I ended up screwing them all together and then going in there and just screwing it in and then pulling the whole thing out. I'm not kidding. Don't do it.
Cool, cool.
Don't do it.
Funny.
I made the mistake, so you don't have to. And if you
That's
do make
funny.
that
So
mistake
how
after
many
watching this
filters
video,
you had to use? How many filters you had to use to be
I
able?
had to use 4 filters. I have a whole bunch of like experimental filters. I used 4 of them to stick them in and
Uh,
get it in there. And so I'm jamming it 4. So I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. I'm sitting here going like, I can see contacting ZWO and being like, "Hey, how do you get 1 filter out?" But contacting them and say, "How do you get 4 filters out plus the
yeah,
original 5 filters out?" Because I thought I'm going to shove my HA filter in here.
yeah, yeah.
To which I should say it does work, but I don't have any photos of it just yet because I spent more time trying to get it out than I did. Then the clouds came in, which was like, "Grr."
Okay, I do want to say also something about the Seestar 50 entry part of the lens. It's like I think it's like a cover that actually can help you with the light reflecting on the lens.
Yep.
However, I'm not sure how it will handle rain. So here on the Dwarf
Oh
2,
yeah, yeah,
on the Dwarf 2, I got some rain on it, but I turn it. You can easy take this filter adapter off and manually get down the optical tube, and protect it
yeah.
against rain. What did you have some kind of experience with the Seestar with rain? I when it
So
rain, I just run with it
I've
inside.
been fortunate that I haven't had the Seastar out in the rain. And the one time I had clouds coming in and we were gonna have some snow, I went out and got it. Like it's I don't want to put my finger in there because it's not actually that deep. Like you can't go that deep in there. But the issue I had was with the filter was I got it stuck in there and then you can't pull it out, right? But it is deep enough that I sit there and say I wouldn't want this to be pointing straight up when like a cloud came by and started raining on it because it would actually be able to pool in here. Whereas if you hold up Dwarf II, the Dwarf II is like sealed and the front is flat. So if there's any water or something like that, it'll just roll off. So, hold
Yeah,
up the Dwarf II.
yeah. So I
Yeah.
think here the
Yeah.
Dwarf
Just hold.
2 has an
Yeah.
advantage
Yeah.
here, with
Yeah. So if you can see the Dwarf II, just open the Dwarf II. So you can see here where this is actually a hole, which water could fill up. And I'm sure there's like, gaskets and whatever else to sort of help not have water come in here because, you can have dew and stuff. I'd be less confident about this than I would be with the Dwarf II, which I know I have gotten caught in a rainstorm before.
yeah.
And it
So
survived.
So I think here the Dwarf 2 has an advantage. However, to finish with the filters, I
Yep.
think the UHC filter from Dwarf 2 can create sometimes internal reflections from a light, from outside light. It happened to me, I think, a couple of times. And first time I thought I discovered the space object. So it looks like it's
I
some
remember
kind
that.
of plasma cloud.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think it was the filter. So second time I've tested, removed the filters. There were two shapes, and both disappeared.
So one thing I do know the Dwarf 2 community has done is they've actually done you can look at them, they've actually 3D printed basically a dew hood. So that one there, that's actually pretty neat to get rid of any exterior light hitting the front. The only downside to that again is that if it is raining or you do have inclement weather and you're out there, that will get full of water. And
I think Dwarf 2 should have some lens hood like that available for the
yeah,
Dwarf, not to maybe I don't have a 3D printer at home. Maybe it's
Mhm.
hard to get a custom one made, right?
Yeah,
So I think Dwarf II should have that to protect the filters for this kind of internal reflections, because I didn't have this problem with the Seestar 50, no reflections at all, but with the Dwarf II filter I did had. I hope they listen to this, they watch this video and they will listen, and will make some kind of hood here to protect the lenses and filters.
yeah. Yeah, again, with both these telescopes, there's a opportunity to make a couple different accessories to improve them from their original stock manufacturing. I'm hoping that we're going to see ZWO and Dwarf 2 Labs come out with sort of the official solutions because, yeah, not everyone has three 3D printers in their garage.
Yeah, and I don't want to complete here a little bit, not with the filters, but Dwarflab made also like a better base here. It had some
Yeah,
problem with the charging the unit. Some units had, mine did. This is actually the old one. However, now it charges also good. Regarding batteries, I will let you talk about that because I know that you've researched more about the
yeah,
batteries. However, I do want to say this will charge also now the unit if you left it outside. Regarding tripod and stability, I think Dwarf 2 actually it will hold better on the small tripod being lighter. But with the Seestar, if you want to be 100%, I think you need a more solid tripod. But we'll share more. We'll talk about this in another video. We'll let Graham now talk more about the two batteries, about the Seestar and the Dwarf 2, and let's see what was his experience. Then I'll shortly tell you mine.
all right. So I'm just going to pop in here for 1 second because I'm going to be showing some people stuff. Go like this. Okay, so the Seastar and the Dwarf 2 have a totally different way of handling certain things. So with the Dwarf 2, the battery is on the back here, and I should probably show it to you rather than just show it to myself. And it comes with these custom batteries. Now, when I got mine, I asked for a spare one so that I could swap them out, so night to night or whatever, and I have two batteries so I could go longer. This is important when I'm going out to a really dark sky location because I do have some Portal 1 zones I can go out to, but I'm not. I find that the batteries for the Dwarf 2 only last about an hour and a half. When it gets cold weather like we have out here in Canada, they last just over an hour in, I'm going to say, optimal conditions, despite fact it's really cold. But you can put them into the into them like this. You close the case, and oh, come on, it's a little. There we go. And you lock it in like that, and you can go. And I have two batteries, so it's quite easy to switch out. Similarly, on the back here, you have the SD card, which you can remove. It's a micro SD card, so it's a bit of a pain to do live because, yeah,
Yeah, I
make
think that could be an advantage with the SD card
yeah,
because the Seestar doesn't have one.
yeah. So the SD card's here, and you can plug it in. And again, you can buy these micro SD cards, different sizes, or you can have multiple ones or whatever. And with the Dwarf 2, the reason I like this is because you can switch out the memory, you can switch out the battery, and as Jan mentioned, you can plug it in with the USB-C to battery pack up, or you can to be able to run it longer. Whereas with the however, with the Seestar S50, all that's internal. It's internal battery, internal storage, internal everything. Now, my experience, I think Jan, you can agree with me. This is that this guy here lasts a lot longer than
True.
the single battery of the Dwarf 2, and obviously the storage in here is I don't know what the exact number is, but I haven't reached it yet.
I've tried it. If you image all night, it can discharge. If you image all night, if you don't charge it, probably it will discharge. So I think on my test it lasted like 4 hours, but it was already colder. So I think if you use it in summer, it can last like 6 hours or something like that, similar. But if it's colder, it's maybe in winter, it might last 3 or 4 hours. However, it will last longer than the Dwarf 2 battery. So here I do believe Sista has the advantage with a better battery.
Yeah, I agree. And the other thing too, I'll say is I've plugged both of these into main power and had them run off the USB C because they both can run off the USB C. But in those cases, the Dwarf Two it does still slowly discharge, so it'll run longer, but it'll eventually.
So I've tested this one like charge it twice faster the new base.
Okay, so that's one of the improvements with the Dwarf Two is
Yeah.
that they put in the new base so that it can run indefinitely, or at least as close to indefinitely as we can get.
Yeah, so it charged it 100% when I used it, and it managed to charge it. So I do think this is a very good improvement for Dwarf 2 with the new live stacking features that we will continue talking in the next part of the video, especially solar and lunar tracking. Now we should make a 5 minutes break and we'll be right back.
Okay, we're not going to take
Let's
that 5 minute break.
What?
You, I'm cutting. I'm not leaving 5 minutes of nothing.
Okay, good. Now let's compare the Dwarf 2 Smart Telescope with the Seestar S50 on solar and lunar imaging. I've managed to test both telescopes out and also the new live stacking features of the Dwarf 2. We'll show you the results on the screen, both on Seestar side by side, both with the Seestar 50 and the Dwarf 2. And regarding single image with the sun or lunar, I believe the Seestar 50 has the advantage because higher focal length. Even if the Dwarf 2 will capture in 4K, we still have about 20% resolution advantage for the Seestar 50, and also with the larger pixels. This means the Seestar 50 will be able to get better quality on single exposures. Also has currently better processing for Deep Sky, Lunar, and Solar. So for just a single image, I believe Seestar has the advantage, clear advantage. However, with the new features of the Dwarf 2, that is 4K live stacking, lunar and solar, I believe here Dwarf 2 has an advantage because it will stack raw files, fits, and it will give you better results than just a single image. So for ease of use, using live stacking will give you a better result than just a single photo. However, with the Seestar, you can make lunar and solar videos in a raw format. To be able to process the videos taken with the Seestar will take you more time, and you need also to learn how to use this software, right? To be able to process the images and get a good stacked, sharp image. The Dwarf 2 and the Seestar are good choices if you want to image the moon or the sun. So both have advantages and disadvantages. I think they are all good options for solar and lunar imaging. Regarding a time-lapse video, if you want to have a time-lapse, this can change depending on the software that we'll have. Dwarf 2, they are currently making better software, and I hope they will improve also lunar and solar tracking. At the moment, I do believe Seestar has an advantage here. For lunar and solar tracking, it tracks better and it will keep the moon and the sun more in the field of view. However, it doesn't have the manual controls that Dwarf has. So with the Dwarf 2, we can adjust manually the exposure, and this is also a big advantage. I've tried with the Seestar 50. Currently, if I wanted to make lunar time lapse, I had to use the solar tracking mode. So
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
white balance was off, totally off.
Yeah, so the Seestar S50, taking the just again taking images like if you're doing it at outreach or something like this, it's going to give you the best sort of out there, like when you're out and imaging at night, or I guess during the day for the solar uh, quality. But with the Dwarf 2, the big advantage that Jan is alluding to is that now that we have manual controls, we could do something like HDR imaging. We could image, say, Earthshine. We can adjust the exposure to better track, if there's going to be ISS or the Taigon going in front
Yes,
of the sun or the moon. We can adjust that. Whereas with the Seestar, the adjustment isn't as controllable. It's just like a little bit higher or lower exposure, but it's all still automatic, which is from what I talked before is Dwarf 2
yeah,
started with manual controls and they're now adding the automatic controls, whereas the Seestar S50 started with automatic controls and now they're adding in the manual controls. Maybe by
correctly,
this time
correct.
next year, they'll both have similar suits of interpretation. But right now, for what we're seeing, that's kind of the big difference between the two from a software perspective.
Okay, so Lem is right about the automatic functions and manual functions. So I think they both need to get to a good compromise here, also Seestar and the Dwarf 2. Regarding what Graham mentioned of capturing the International Space Station, I think Dwarf 2 has an advantage here because it has the second wide angle lens that will allow us to see it, and will be able to manually move the Dwarf II with a tripod, or even can move the optical tool manually or using the joystick. So I think the controls here to find an object like the Deep Sky, like the International Space Station, is much easier with the Dwarf 2 than with the Seestar. And we also have the object tracking that might work. I haven't tested it yet, but might work and follow the International Space Station in the sky. So it will be easier to find and record these transitions because we have this wide angle lens, and it's just easier to use the Dwarf 2 with the wider field of view to capture transitions like the ISS in front of the sun or in front of the moon, or just traveling through space. Now, regarding how easy it is to find the moon and the sun with the Dwarf 2 and the Seestar 50, I believe with the Dwarf 2 is just easier because we can manually point it directly in the direction. We can use the wide angle lens to see the position of the moon or the sun, having the filters on for solar imaging. So it's just easier than with the Seestar 50. ZWS still has to do some improvements here to find the moon and the sun without having to calibrate every time.
Yeah. So one thing I'll add here is that the Seestar S50, like I'm trying to turn it, it doesn't have a clutch. So there's no way to manually turn this other than lifting up the tripod and moving it. Whereas with the Dwarf 2, not only do you have that wide angle camera, which is very nice for finding the moon and the sun, more particularly the sun during the day than the moon, but with that clutch, you're able to actually move it and point it at the sun, the moon, and then say track this. Whereas with the Seestar, you have to use the joystick in the app to basically find it in the sky. And particularly with the sun, when you have that filter on there, it's basically either a you're pointing at the sun or you're pointing at black.
True, true. So it's much easier to move it like this and find it manually than to
Yeah,
wait until Sister will try to find the moon or the sun. So
yeah.
user friendly, I think it's much easier to use the DOF to find them. In conclusion, what do you think about the two of them for Lunar and Solar? For me, they are very close, each with pluses and minuses, and I
Yeah.
think they're both good solutions. Also, the Dwarf 2 and the Seestar 50.
So I think if you're out in the field with the live stacking capabilities of the Dwarf 2, I think with solar and lunar you're going to get better results. But if you are able to take video and take it back to your computer, I think the Seestar S50 is going to, with that little extra resolution, be able to give you better results with the additional processing. So
Same here, but you need also to know how to correctly process to get the
oh yeah,
result.
absolutely. It's not a straightforward process. It is once you know how to do it, but
Yeah,
you have to learn how to do it first, and there's a lot of factors that play in that, and then you get to learn what wavelets are.
yeah, yeah,
Wavelets.
and use the correct software also.
Wavelets will haunt your nightmares.
True. They can be tricky. However, there is a new software called, I believe, Solar System Stacker that
Okay.
makes the wavelengths a little bit simple.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna try that out then
Yeah,
because
we'll
I
uh,
hate
we'll make a
wavelets.
tutorial about that, how to
I
use this
hate
new
them.
software.
All right. Be
Okay.
sure to subscribe to learn how you don't have to deal with wavelets. I guarantee you, it's going to be worth your time.
Be sure to subscribe also to Ember Sky Media. It has a cool channel with a lot of informative and useful videos.
Okay, what's next on the list? I wrote the list up, but I don't want to look at it. It's
So
got filters on
let's
it.
hope we won't forget anything in this discussion. If we do, just let us questions in the comments below. And we should move on also on scenery and birding and wildlife with these two telescopes. Right, Graham?
So, yeah. So, when we talk about scenery, wildlife, and birding, I'm going to put this guy over here because I have exclusively so far used the Dwarf 2 for this. And I will tell you why right now. This has a wide angle camera. This focuses about what 5-6 meters away, and this has it where you can have it track birds. It doesn't do the best job at tracking birds, but it does well enough for replacing, say, bringing an entire telephoto lens system, etc., which I have, but that's like it does a better job, but it's also like $2,000 just for the lens. So, perspective, $500 telescope that also does birding. It'll also do wildlife. It does some nice landscape with the wide angle lens, so you can have that as well. But Yeah. Whereas, what's the reason we're not using the Seestar S50?
I want to get there. So why we are not using the Seestar 50 is because first the focus distance is yeah, I think it's around that, around 25 meters. I went with both these telescopes to test it on birding. The Dwarf II, I was able to just put it on the window, open the window and put it there and capture some beautiful birds. It was very easy to find. I had the wide field lens to help me. However, with the Seestar, I went on the last room from the last spot or from the living room. I went far back, like 15 meters, and I still couldn't focus on the birds. So I had to go out about 25 meters to be able to focus in that region, and also finding the bird feeder was really difficult to find it and focus. It took me like 1 hour with the sister to do it, and it took me a couple of minutes with the Dwarf II. So for birding, wildlife, definitely the Dwarf II. Also, we have the landscape orientation that helps a lot.
And I think that's what, like, I'm not saying you can't do it with the Seestar S50. If you have something like really far away and you want to image it, the Seestar S50 is going to do a slightly better job than the Dwarf 2. But the amount of effort you're going to do for trying to find it, trying to get it in focus and all that stuff, and if that thing is like, if you're trying to image something that's moving, it's going to be far more difficult than, even just buying a basic telephoto lens and then using it on a basic camera, or say the super telephoto zoom on the latest smartphones, because those work great during the day when they can get lots of light, but obviously once it gets at night, they don't work at all.
True, true. And I do want to say about the scenery landscapes. If you want to capture with a dwarf, I think here the best quality will have the telephoto lens, and
Mhm.
we have a mosaic mode. So let's talk about mode.
Yeah, let's
System
talk
doesn't
let's
have
talk
that.
about mosaics.
Yeah, so it has a mosaic mode, but you still need to teach it for the moment on the computer until they will finish the stitching software. However, having the automated options there, you'll use it. However, you still need to do the final adjustments on the PC. The quality can be awesome. I must say, I got an image of about 800 megapixels using the Dwarf 2 on Two Dust Gorge, and I went also to a waterfall and took some beautiful images in the evening and also night using some light painting with a headlamp. And I got some very nice effects there with smooth water in long exposure images. That would have been very difficult with the Seestar because I had to climb a little bit, so it was a difficult terrain. So again, here on scenery, I say Dwarf 2 wins this round without any questions.
I tend to agree that the Dwarf 2 is a bit more of a jack of all trades smart telescope than the Seestar S50. Like, the Seestar S50 does really good deep sky objects. It does really good solar and lunar imaging, especially if you can take those videos home and process them. Whereas the Dwarf 2 has a few more tricks up its sleeve in terms of the panoramics, in terms of the landscape, in terms of birding, in terms of being able to image some of the initial deep sky objects that somebody who would buy it right out of the box would necessarily go for. And I think we're going to see a lot more from Dwarf 2 as they continue to improve their software. Whereas I think with the Seestar S50, we're going to see improvements, but I think they are like already 90% of the way there.
First time I've tested the Seestar, I was impressed, like flawless autofocus. The battery lost longer time. Everything was smooth and the tracking was perfect. The go-to was perfect. So here I think the Seestar has an advantage having better software currently. Dwarf 2 started to recover by launching new firmware updates with the live stacking features and 4K live stacking in Deep Sky, and now made a new Sky catalog, and they are working on the Sky Atlas, but is not finished yet at the moment of this video. However, I do appreciate the efforts from Dwarf 2, and hopefully they will get closer with the Seestar. But at the moment, I believe Seestar has the advantage of a better, stable software for both iOS and Android.
Yeah. And there's one last advantage that we haven't talked about yet.
Shutting down.
The price.
No, it's the fact that
Uh,
it talks to you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The sister also talks to you sometimes. I don't know, Chinese.
Yeah. Before you set it up and it realizes that it's North America, it starts talking to you in Chinese and it
Yeah,
switches things. That was the weirdest thing. I'm like, uh-oh, what setting do I need to change?
yeah, true, true.
Okay, so at the end of the day, Jan, the question is, who should buy the Dwarf II and who should buy the Seestar S50? Like brass tacks, if somebody can only buy one, which one should they buy?
Mm. Well, if the price is a concern, I believe the Dwarf 2 will generally have a lower price than the Seastar. I believe the Dwarf 2 will be more frequently discounted than the Seastar 50. So regarding the price, I think Dwarf 2 will be a better option. However, if you do want the best results on Deep Sky Astrophotography, I believe the Seastar is the best choice here. On Lunar and Solar, I believe they are both good options to consider. And on birding, wildlife, scenery, here Dwarf 2 is the best option. So considering all, I think these two are very good options for stargazing, for travel, to use it as a first smart telescope and learn astronomy and astrophotography. What do you think, Ray?
If price isn't an object, buy both.
Yeah, that would be a good option because they,
They
uh,
do complement each other.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, you could use actually both of them and go with the Dove 2 more when you travel and you want to do more scenery, and use the Seastar more at home because has better quality for deep sky imaging.
So I think I'm going to echo most of what you said. I think the big takeaway for me doing this is if you're looking at using this out in the field, you're going to show your friends or you're going to go to star parties and you're going camping or something like this. I think the Dwarf 2 from a portability standpoint, from a size standpoint, makes a very good argument. I'm not worried about leaving the Dwarf 2 out overnight to take images, etc., other than the fact that the battery is going to die faster than the Seestar
Yeah.
S50, but I can carry spare batteries if I need them. The Seestar is bigger because it has better optics in it. It has a better chip to it. Like we can argue 1080p versus a 4K chip, but you're paying for that in the extra weight, in the fact that it only has one camera in there, and whereas the Dwarf 2, it's smaller, it's lighter. It's less likely to get damaged because it's made of that like softer plastic on the outside. It comes with a little bag that's a lot easier to use. The filters are a lot smaller, so if you do decide to do this and you want to be, taking more time to get those images, you can put filters and stuff like that on it, and it's going to give you an overall less expensive package than going for like 2-inch filters with a 2-inch filter holder that doesn't even exist yet. Um, and you know, not everyone goes out and buys 4 2-inch filters so they can.
There are minuses and pluses. In the end, will be your choice. I hope.
But there is one choice you
Yeah,
should make, which is buy either one in Jan's affiliate links below.
yeah. Don't forget to check the affiliate links below, and you'll get the best prices on the Dwarflab or on the ZW website. Well, I hope you find the video useful, informative, and helpful. I enjoyed having Graham from Ember Sky Media here with me. I hope you will subscribe also to his channel and check his videos out. I just want to let you know that I'll share the data with the Dwarf 2 and the Seastar on the channel membership share folder. Make sure you'll check also the channel membership out. More videos will follow soon, and until next time, I wish you all clear sky.